Here at Other Record Labels, it's been a weird year. My YouTube views are down. My email subscribers are down. Google searches dropping. Enrollment in the academy is down. Pivot to my own record label and my own music. It's the same thing. Bandcamp, I think, is down. The physical media streaming numbers are down. I haven't been able to get any traction on my latest single with respect to Spotify playlists or my last couple of singles in the past couple of months and years. It feels like what's been reliable in the past few years has slowly stopped working the same way. Social media is evolving so fast that I've now just figured out how to make decent video content, and I'm already outdated in my approach. Things have changed again, and what I finally figured out how to implement feels like it was something that was more common last year, and things are changing again. Why? Why is everything feeling like it sucks right now? Is it the economy? Is it the global negative sentiment? Is it social platforms and the algorithms that are just pushing people into more chaotic and polarizing content and away from the simple pleasures like music and art? Is it corporations focusing more on intense attention and leaving slow art forms behind? Is it AI maybe? And all that slop and the bloated AI features that are just causing a mess of everything? The answer is probably most likely yes to all of it. Is the music industry dying, though? Is it worse now than it's ever been? Is the competition too great? Is vying for audience attention now more intense and more crowded? Personally, I don't ever buy that today is worse than yesterday for the music industry. I've always noticed it's a sliding scale of increasing opportunities and increasing challenges at the same time. Jeff Tweedy wrote a lyric that says, "Every generation thinks it's the end of the world." But I get it. It doesn't change our reality, your reality, that you may be feeling discouraged or overwhelmed. You've likely felt like packing it in or shutting it down, and a few labels have recently, and that's sad. But I can also tell you that I've met a few record labels that are just starting out this month with great enthusiasm and even greater music. I get all your emails, and I don't always have time to reply, and I apologize. And some questions are over my pay grade, and things like, some pretty doom and scary questions and tough questions about AI or boycotting Spotify or other ethical questions or big philosophical questions that I can't, as one person, research or form an opinion for the whole community. But I get a sense that there's a sense of overwhelm here, that some of you are feeling like everything sucks. And if that's you, today's episode is for you. If you feel like quitting, but you prefer not to, then this episode is for you. If you're looking for a boost of energy and inspiration, then today's episode is for you. If you're feeling discouraged, but you want practical steps to feel encouraged, then this episode is for you. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr, where we talk about the art and culture of running an independent record label. This is my favorite type of episode to make because I want you to feel fulfilled running your label. I want you to enjoy being passionate about music. And to be able to do these episodes, we need our sponsors to make these episodes happen. And we're talking today because of my friends at Lander. You've probably heard about Lander, the mastering service, but it's so much more now. Lander Studio gives you everything you need to make, release, and grow your music, from samples to plugins, mastering, distribution, and so much more, all in one place for one subscription. It's simple, it's affordable, and honestly, it's a game changer for indie artists who want to focus on creating, managing, and for labels who want to focus on distributing. So a huge thanks to Lander for supporting our community and helping make these weekly episodes possible, giving me a chance to keep delivering encouraging and inspiring content week after week. You can check out Lander Studio and get 20% off by going to lander.com/other record labels. That's spelled LANDR.com/other record labels. The link is in the description of this episode. There's 3 things I want to talk about today that will help you survive these sucky times, to weather the storm, whether it's just how you're feeling today or this week, or if it's a bigger systematic issue that will maybe take a few years to get on the other side of. The first way to help you cope with a challenging music industry is to start with why. Why are you doing this? Get in touch with your origin story to remind you of why you started this label in the first place. By the way, be sure to read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. This is where I kind of pulled this from, but here's where I start. I rely on my 42-year-old love of music. I've told you before about the entrepreneurial seizure. It's not something I invented. It's from another book called The E-Myth. It means when you have a new idea for a business, it overtakes you and it's all you think about. It's like a seizure and you're excited and passionate. And it looks as if you'll be able to sustain this level of enthusiasm for the next 10 years. But it's called an entrepreneurial seizure because it's actually an unsustainable moment in time and it ends. And then you have to figure out how to continue to manage your business when the initial excitement dies down, the novelty wears off, and it becomes a job. When I started my label back in 2010, I was keenly aware of this term because I had just read that book, and I started to worry about what happens when my initial excitement dies down from starting this label. So many start businesses on Instagram, or they get business cards, or they open a website or an Instagram account, or it's a product idea, or they make a logo and they tell the whole world, and then it just dissipates once the rubber has to hit the road and the excitement isn't enough. But to be honest, back then, I wasn't worried about my sustainability. Why? Because I'd been passionate about making and collecting music since before I can remember. So I was never afraid that I would one day become more passionate about golf than music. So I trusted my original why. And I was right. That all-consuming passion you have in the first few months of any business does wear off, but that's okay because you rely on your original love of music and records and musicians and record stores or whatever it is for you. You get it? You can rely also on the fact that you're doing this to help the industry that you grew up loving. The love of live music, your love of record stores, studios, those people are your people and they are benefiting from the work that you're doing today. When it sucks for you as a record label, remember that your sacrifice is for these artists who without you would be doing this alone. I'm biased, but I personally think that being a record label owner is a pretty selfless endeavor. You probably agree. So right now, fall back on that fact that you're helping people. You're giving people community. You're creating community. People ask me if they should quit or stop releasing music because it's hard to break even. I think about the artists that I adore. I really don't want them to give up. I love hearing about a new release. As a music fan, I need this industry to keep existing because music is everything to me. So to the artists and labels and managers and engineers, your work is appreciated, even when it doesn't feel like it. Another component of my why is my legacy. We've been talking about this a lot lately, but I truly believe in the longevity of the music we make, especially now that a lot of it is permanently available digitally online, and people are discovering it, newly discovering it at different times in their lives or different times in music history. We've been talking about this a lot lately in Label Mates, the long life of a record, how the records of the 50s and 60s and 70s are still popular and being sold day after day today, how Taylor, her back catalog, for example, are seen as eras and not just out-of-date old releases that are less and less relevant as she releases more and more music. It's the opposite. They become more part of this longer story. We're starting to see less and less pressure being put on release day and release week, and that's a good thing. And so I try to focus on my catalog as a whole, trying to get people into an artist's discography, trying to bundle vinyl packages to save on shipping. A great label we had on here a few months ago said that every new release is basically just a promotional tool for the previous release. And this is true. A song on a playlist that hits just right can be released yesterday or 10 years ago, and none of us know. None of us really should care. More than that, even bigger in that is just how special it is that we are creating records that will live longer than we will. That someone somewhere in a record store, this is my dream, someone somewhere in a record store will dig out a copy of your release that no one cared about in 2025 and will buy it for $3 and will take it home and think it's the greatest thing ever. Maybe it becomes this hard to find record 30 years from now. Maybe not that crazy. It's just a hyperbole, but our records will continue to live on. And we should focus on how we are not dropping a grain of sand on the beach, but instead we're putting a volume onto the shelf in this great library of music. Now, talking about legacy and your why is philosophical. Some of you want something more practical that you can do today that somewhat reignites that entrepreneurial seizure. So here's what I suggest. Number 2, do something drastic. Change bigly. Completely redraw how your label exists. Give 100% of your royalties to your artists. Or commit to one major release a year. Or commit to one major release per month. Or rebrand with a whole new look and feel. Maybe sign an artist that you would have never signed before. venture off into a whole new sound. Do something so different that people have to pay attention because the pivot is so shocking. It's uncomfortable for them in a good way. At the very least, cut some things off that you really don't want to do anymore. Is vinyl draining the bank? Then go digital. Is all the promo pitching and the PR getting you down when your emails get ignored? What about if you just don't send your music to the press anymore? Is that a bad idea? Maybe. Who cares? It's about doing what makes you feel fulfilled and takes the pressure off. My first change as a record label was to take the summer off completely, which reminds me of another practical step you could take to change things up is pause or take a hiatus. There's two things I do here at other record labels on the podcast that help sustain my energy throughout the year and make sure that I don't get burned out and gives me a break. Number one, I have the summer to do a 10-week series, and I plan out the episodes in the spring. I have to record them. But doing this simple series takes the thinking out of summer and the planning, and there's no interviews, no big episodes, just simple basic content in a series like we did Burning Questions. This summer was Listen to This Before You, and it was like a series on things to keep in mind before you venture into a certain idea or project. Our first summer was Summer of Sync, where we did 10 episodes of sync licensing. The second thing I do here on the podcast is in December, I re-release popular podcast episodes for the month of December. So with that, I can take basically December off. So for 3 months of the year, I have simplified and pre-planned a batch of content that gives me a break and allows me to focus on making other months stronger and other episodes stronger in the future. So what can this look like for your label? Can you take a pause this winter and come back stronger in the summer? Can you shut down for an entire year and batch a bunch of projects and signings and releases and come back strong? The answer is yes, and maybe you should. A pause, a hiatus. What about a hiatus that lasts a few years? Do you worry about people forgetting about you? Well, you should, and they will. But then when you come back, they'll all be right there waiting and happy to have you back. The other thing you could do to do something drastic is launch a new product or something new altogether, a summer festival, a YouTube channel. That's what I did. I launched a YouTube series where I visited a local recording studio, or local recording studios, a bunch of them. And we interviewed studio owners and talked about gear. They were kind of long form videos. It was hugely popular. We got like over 10,000 views per video. And it got my label name out there. It made our brand so much stronger at the time. And it was just completely out of left field. It wasn't something that a record label normally does. This was back in 2015. It was crazy. It worked so well. We talked about this a few weeks ago about labels embracing the new label model of doing more than just releasing records, like opening a record store or a recording studio or a fashion line or a coffee shop, maybe starting a label services portion of your label. I don't know what this is for you, only you know. But here's the macro point I'm trying to make. Find a way to restart that entrepreneurial seizure. Start something new that makes you excited again. Maybe not right now. Start planning for a launch in the new year or 6 months from now. This will reignite your passions, and it might just be a new stream of revenue or a new stream of promotion, or it may entirely pivot your record label altogether. Finally, regardless of what you take away from today's episode, I want you to just simply persevere, to continue on. Running a record label is hard. Being in the music industry is hard. But do you think there are other jobs that are not hard? Ask a plumber or a construction worker if their job is hard. It's hard being a nurse. It's hard working in a cubicle for a stupid corporation. It's hard to shovel asphalt. This is hard. I'm not dismissing that. Life is hard. Doing great things is hard. Getting the freedom to do what you love requires strategy and dedication and perseverance. Otherwise, everyone would do it. So, changing your perspective on how you persevere can really help, meaning judge yourself on a long time horizon. The famous quote, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. So don't judge yourself on what you've done today or this week or this month, maybe just a tiny bit. Maybe hold yourself accountable just a tiny bit, but look at the next 5 years. Look at how you evolve over a 10-year period. I remember grumbling one time to a music industry friend. He's a publicist. And I was just saying, I just don't feel like we're getting anywhere as a label. I just don't feel like I'm growing as a label. And he said, well, are you selling more records like this year than you were 3 years ago? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you getting more reach on Spotify and through the press than you did 3 years ago or 5 years ago when you got started? I'm like, yeah, well, of course. And he's like, well, then you are growing. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm just holding myself to some sort of unrealistic standard. So when I look back over a longer time horizon, or I look forward over a longer time horizon, things didn't seem so bad. Also, remember that it's a numbers game. It's about multiple initiatives. It's about a catalog of releases. Some wins, some that get ignored. It's even true for massive indie labels. They have some releases that over the past 20 years have kept the lights on and pay all their staff, like 1 or 2 records. And then they have a handful that are consistent sellers, and then other releases where they lost money. It's about consistently taking shots, knowing not every one will go in. Here's the thing. When we go back to our why, we realize there's no quitting. There's no stopping. There's pauses, hiatuses, sometimes for decades. We have folks in our label mates group or people I've met on Clarity calls who have always been into music but are now retired and ready to do something meaningful in the last chapter of their lives. You might be on the precipice of something huge for your label, or you might be about to take an elongated rest or regroup for a year or for a decade. Coming back when you have more clarity, more resources, and more time, that's totally fine. Here's the thing. In my new book, the opening chapter is called There Are No Rules. And I want to remind you of that. You can run this label however you want. There's no rules, and there should be no pressure on you to do things the way it's always been done. I'm not downplaying how difficult the music industry is right now. I'm not downplaying how difficult life is right now. And we, our generation, we might be right. Maybe this is the worst it's ever been or ever going to be. I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced it's the worst that it's been more than 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I think there are new opportunities and I think there are new challenges. But I agree that it's hard doing life right now and being a business owner. And artists are faced with waves of challenges at every level of the business, from touring, streaming, physical media, promotion. So all I can offer you is to remember your why. Don't forget that you're helping people every day, fans and artists alike. Consider your long-term legacy, not just what you're doing this month or how people are responding to things this year. If that's not enough, then do something drastic, a new product, a short-term or long-term hiatus, or just change up some of the things you've always done. Make your label unrecognizable to renew your own passion. Ultimately, I encourage you to just persevere, to see what tomorrow has in store, to see what life is like post-pandemic, post-war, to see how AI settles out, what corporations eat themselves, how social media evolves, to see the roundabouts in the analog life and come back in popularity. It's really well documented, the connection between the rise of digital music and streaming alongside the rise of physical media again, and vinyl coming back and selling more copies than ever before at a time where we all have music digitally accessible to us. And so it's interesting to live this kind of contradictory experience in society where we have all of these digital things and yet some of us crave real life products. And so it's interesting to be around for that and to be positioned to benefit from that as a record label and as an artist, to survive the valleys and then to hopefully enjoy the peaks. For me, I started this record label journey in the back of my parents' car as a 4-year-old. I was unfolding that massive J card of a Phil Collins tape. And now, a few too many decades later, I just got back yesterday from the record store. I bought 2 new records for myself. So I'm in this. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm committed to surviving this industry. And I'm in it whether I want to or not. I have no choice. I'm here. Listen, and this is somewhat encouraging, somewhat discouraging. I hope it's helped you, though. I hope it's inspired you to keep going, to pivot a little bit, to look for ways. I just don't want you to grumble. We opened our new label mate session last week, and let's not focus on the things that are working against us, and let's focus on how we can do something different and how we can inspire ourselves and not wait for somebody else to come around and inspire us. I hope that's helped. Thanks again to our friends at Lander for sponsoring today's episode. You can check them out by going to lander.com, landr.com/other record labels. And thanks for listening.